Thank you for joining the Ask the Experts panel. We're going to discuss today and deep dive into any questions that you have and hopefully be able to answer those for you for all things related to cost management and billing. Just got a couple of housekeeping slides before we just dive in and start answering your questions. First of all, to engage us, myself, the moderator, and the panel of experts, please ask questions in chat. We will go through and approve them, and once they're approved, it should be visible and available to everybody. We also ask that you use the thumbs up button to favorite any questions if you would like to see those answered, the response to those questions, and those will help us kind of triage and prioritize the questions. Some of the questions we will answer verbally as well as in chat directly. Again, this session will be recorded. Please keep the questions succinct and adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. This is our panel of experts. Myself, I'm the moderator, and I will also be answering questions as well as people from program managers as well as engineering leads from the Azure Cost Management team. We'll be covering everything in cost management from planning to controlling your costs as well as visibility, accountability, and optimization. So I see some questions start rolling in, so let's just jump over there and start looking. Aha. So Manav, here is a question for you. The question asked is, what can you tell me about custom settings for forecasts and budget costs? Will custom budgets per resource group become available? Will be available to set a custom budget per month, say $4,000 in March, $500,000 in April, etc.
All right, thanks Ben for that. So regarding custom budgets or just setting up budgets for your whole year, it's something that we have in our backlog and is quite high in our priority. Currently, a workaround for you to achieve this is that you can set up different budgets for each month, and we allow you to set up budgets that start up to 1 year in the future as well from the current date, which means from September 2020, you can go ahead and set budgets based on the start date up to August 2021. And so you can already start planning for your year by setting up new budgets until August 2021. But if you're looking at one budget with multiple thresholds per month for the next year, it's something that we do have in our backlog. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Manav. One other question. I will throw this out to the panel to see who wants to answer this one. It's reservation specific. And the question is there any way to attach an RI to a specific VM object? And if not, is there some way to do this in the future? So effectively targeting VMs with reservations in some sort of priority order.
Hey Ben, I can take this one. You can't, you cannot associate to a specific VM or a specific instance. The way the reservation allocation actually works is it uses the sort of the FIFO logic, which is the first in, first out. So the first VM that consumed, the first sort of applicable VM that consumed the reservation in that hour will end up getting the benefit. However, there are ways that, with features like chargeback and cost allocation, that you could divvy up those costs within your organization. So cost allocation would be a feature if that's something that you want to kind of cross charge back to the appropriate VM.
Thank you, Rafi. Hey, this looks like it might be another Manav question. Is there a straightforward automated way to add up all costs attributed to a particular Azure VM?
Automated way to add up all the costs?
Yeah, the automated way is kind of throwing me as well, but I was thinking about in cost analysis, where you can do cost by resource.
Yeah, all the costs that are attributed to a particular Azure VM. Yes, you can use cost by resource view in cost analysis. that'll give you the costs that are associated for a particular VM. So if you see the table view in that, it'll also give you a drill down based on the chevron symbol that is next to the VM name of all the internal the meters that you have deployed as a part of that virtual machine. And so you can see a clean breakdown of all the costs that are leading up to that particular VM. You can also sort that table based on your resource type. So based on your resource type, which is Azure Compute, you can go ahead and then select virtual machines and see all the meters that you've deployed out there.
Thank you, Manav.
I see another one, which is will we ever be able to turn off resources once the limit has been reached? Yes, you can already do that using budgets in Azure Cost Management. So if you have a budget created at a subscription scope, you can attach an action group to that. And that action group can actually contain a script or a runbook that you can assign that will go ahead and turn off all your VMs. For that matter, it can be any resource. Additional information is in a documentation, and I will paste it in the question out here as a reply. Thanks.
Thank you. And Rafi, this seems like this might be a question you can answer. Is there any way to see month-by-month cost for all of my tenants?
The answer to that depends whether all of those tenants are within a single enrollment. So if you're an enterprise customer and you have multiple subscriptions that span across multiple tenants, then absolutely in cost management, when you select that particular scope, for example, it could be my enrollment scope or my tenants department scopes, you can see the cost across tenants. However, if, just to be clear, if these tenants span across multiple enrollments or multiple pay-as-you-go subscriptions, then in that case, you can see the cost across these tenants. You would have to select that particular billing account, specific billing accounts, and look at the cost per billing account or per tenant. So if it's an enterprise customer and if all of them are within the single enrollment, yes, you can.
Thank you. Let's see here. One of the questions asked. 1 second, I'm just scrolling here. So one of the questions asked is, and Manav, this might be back over to you. Is there anything in the backlog to allow scheduled cost management reporting, not just a scheduled drop to a storage account with action group integration? The scenario is highly requested by customers who wish to receive weekly, monthly cost management reports via email in a nice looking PDF, Excel, CSV, etc.
Yeah, we do support that, and thank you for asking. So scheduled emails is something that is at the top of our priority list, and our engineering team is currently working on it. We hope to have it in preview for you to use probably in the first quarter of 2020. Sorry, 2021, not 2020.
Thank you, Manav. Okay, we have another reservation question. This is back to, I'll read it. I think it was similar to the one we answered before, but let me just check. Will it be possible to assign reservations to a specific resources instead of linking them to resource groups, or at least prioritize the usage based on tags? We have a sandbox and production machines in the same resource group and subscriptions.
Yes, it is pretty similar to the previous question, and the answer to that is not to a specific resource. You can to a specific subscription or a specific resource group. So if when buying your reservations, you can either use a shared scope or a single scope. And in a single scope, you can assign it to a specific resource group or a subscription, but you cannot assign it to a specific resource or a tag. The benefit that the resource gets is based on the resource that first used that reservation, and that would get the benefit for it.
Thank you, Rafi. So here's another question, and I will put it out to the group. Says, I was told that I can receive a statement broken down by different resource groups so we can track our spending closely. How can this get set up?
Okay, sorry, Ben, can you repeat the question? There was some...
Sure. Yeah, no worries. It said, I was told I can receive a statement broken down by different resource groups so we can track our spending closely. How can this be set up?
So the easiest way that I would suggest somebody can do this, in cost management, there are some built-in reports. And one of the built-in reports is an invoice reconciliation report. So if you go to the drop-down list of reports, the invoice reconciliation report was something that I would suggest would be the best way to do that. It allows you to, it's a pretty powerful report, and it allows you to analyze your invoice by over 20 dimensions, and resource group or resource or department, whichever way you want to kind of analyze that particular report is something you can do. You can filter or group by that specific dimension. So I would suggest you would use that report to analyze it by resource group or any other dimension for that matter.
Thank you. The next question here is, what resources are available for reservations? For example, app service reservations applicable for reservations. So basically the question is, do we have a list of reservation or resources that support reservations? And then also is restrictions, limits, and then when does it make more sense to explore an enterprise agreement? The first part, sorry, go ahead, Rafi.
For the first part, there are quite a few services which support reservations. I would suggest go to the Azure documentation, and it'll give you the full list of services. There are quite a lot of services like SQL, Compute, Databricks. There are a ton of services that support it. So if you just go to the Azure documentation and do a search on services supported by reservations, you will get the full laundry list of all the services that do support reservations.
Good point, and it also does have any kind of restrictions or limits or anything else attached to it as well in that documentation.
And I'll just push it onto the screen, the list of services. I can just bring it up onto the screen and show you what those list of services are. So it's right here. If you can see my screen, the list of services that do allow you to purchase reservations is available on the screen. And was there a second part to that question, Ben?
Yeah, was any kind of restrictions or limits?
Not that I'm aware of. Obviously, when you buy a reservation, it is restricted to the specific SKU and location, the service family and location that you're buying that reservation for. And then based on how you do your reservation purchase, whether you do it for a single scope or a shared scope, those will drive the behavior of how the benefits are allocated. All right.
Thank you. Hey, and Manav, I believe you've already answered this, but this has gotten a lot of votes, so I was hoping that you wouldn't mind answering it in person. And the question is it possible to have an abnormal usage alerts? For example, suppose we normally spend $100 a day, then at 2 a.m. hour, we spend $100 more in 1 hour. There's obviously something wrong. There could trigger an alert without having to actually go and create one.
Yeah, certainly. So anomaly detection is something that we're planning to introduce in the Azure portal experience, as well as an API so that you can just call us and check for any anomalies that you have. We're going to start off with the subscription scope, so that if you call us using a subscription scope based on all the resource groups that you've deployed in your subscription scope, we'll provide you with any anomalies. And this anomaly detection model would run once per day, so that you're at the top of your costs in Azure Cost Management. We're planning to have this out in preview for you sometime in the first half of 2021, and is currently in deployment as we speak.
Thank you. So I have a question here, which I will ask and then answer. So the question is kind of a statement then a question. We do a lot of stuff with Power BI on cost reporting. Does this or will this be obsolete in the future? The answer is no, not at all. We're actually spending more time and effort in making or providing the ability to get cost data into Power BI. Definitely, there's additional things that you want to add into your Azure cost to be able to slice and dice across things like your business hierarchy or information like that that's not readily available in Azure. So Power BI just lends itself quite well to come up with rich visualizations that you can create that really is meaningful to your business. So will not be obsolete in the future. We are actually investing time. We have an Azure Cost Management template app as well as an Azure Cost Management connector, so you're safe. Aha, okay, here is another question. Are there any plans to integrate the CSP cost billing directly in Azure Cost Management? At the moment, it's not possible to see CSP cost billing details in the Azure portal.
I can take that one. For
Sure.
CSP, we are focusing a little bit more to push. We do have cost management available for CSP on the Microsoft partner-led agreement. That is the MPL. That is the Azure plan, depending on which name you kind of apply to it. So cost management support for MPL is available today, both for you as a partner as well as for your end customers if you enable policy. So we strongly suggest that you drive towards the MPL, because that is sort of our future of where we will be investing in all our cost management related features, and that is where we plan to invest more of the time and effort to enable those features and capabilities in that offer.
Okay, I'll take the next question that's come in, which is there seems to be a variety of consumption billing APIs. Which one should we be using, and are they still relevant? Yes, consumption APIs are very relevant, and I can share a screenshot out here, but it's basically the main couple of APIs that you can use are budgets, charges, credits, forecasts, price sheet, reservation, tags, user details. These are some of the top consumption APIs that you can use to call us, and they are very relevant, and we're not going to be deprecating any of them anytime soon. Then there's one regarding allocation, which is what cost management options are you looking at to add at a resource group level? For instances, cost allocation via resource group tags, billing at resource group level. I guess that one's for you.
Sure. Aha, yes. I see it. So yes, today we actually do have a public preview of cost allocation, and it definitely does and should allow you to allocate costs from a subscription resource group or tags to another subscription resource groups or tags. It basically allows you to allocate out or distribute out kind of any shared services from a target from a source to a target. So that is available today, and I will paste in the doc link for that. Aha, okay. Here is one. This is a question about reservations in the portal. And the question is, Is there any plans to allow reader rights to all reservations in a subscription versus having to assign rights to per reservation? I will put this out to the panel. Rafi, I think you're muted if you are speaking.
That is a good question. I'm not 100% sure about that particular the answer to that. I believe so, but if Michael, if you don't mind, just sending me an email, we'll put up a resource link and send an email to the Ask Cost Management PM alias. We can circle back and get an answer to that question for you and confirm it.
Yes, that's a good point, because I believe this, I mean, this has been asked before, especially if you're thinking about billing administrators or enterprise admins being able to see everything. So yes.
I can take the next question, which is responses from query API and export data is not the same. We see lesser data in exported data. So a couple of things here. Query API provides you with an aggregated cost view based on the dimensions that you see in cost analysis in the portal. Whereas exports, and I'm guessing you're creating an export which is prior to August 17th. So after August 17th, we aligned exports to usage details API, which is in the consumption APIs. And this gives you a detailed cost and usage report, which with more fields than you see in query API in the portal. So if you're looking for a way to slice and dice your data and get the most detailed report that we give you, we suggest that you use exports and is the same as user details API, which is the same as the file that you get in usage plus charges download from the Azure portal. And there's another question regarding GCP. Yes, that is in our roadmap, but we just don't have an ETA for you at the moment for it.
Hey, Manav, there's another question here that's kind of your direction. So the question is, they have scheduled exports with multiple Pago tenants. How can I export the data to a central storage account for a holistic cost management view? Currently, they only have the ability to select storage accounts that live in the tenant.
Right. So yes, we are aware of this experience that exports only works in your same tenant. This goes to the same for certain partners who are trying to create an export for their customers' tenant as well, which is something that we're looking into. It's also something concerning Lighthouse customers. And just that right now we don't allow you to do that, but it's in our backlog to support cross-tenant exports. I suggest a workaround for you right now is to create an export in each tenant than the central storage account. But yes, it's on our backlog.
Thank you. Another question here, which I will read out and then respond to. So the question is will there be a way that an IT department or organization will be able to add a percentage on top of surcharge or uplift of the normal Azure pricing, so that others in the organization will see the pricing that the IT department will be offering, which includes the management of Azure? So the answer to that is yes, this is something on our backlog. We would like to provide the ability for you to add a surcharge, because obviously there, especially in companies that have a centralized IT where they're doing work in Azure for the behalf of the company, they should be able to add a surcharge on top of the Azure cost to recoup their outlay of expense in supporting. So yes, that is something that's coming. We don't have an ETA now, but that is definitely on our backlog. Okay, how about this? This is an interesting question. Rafi, do you want to field this one? It is, how do you prefer to organize costs? Using subscriptions, tags, other options, and why?
So the In cost management, we support it in all ways. We do have some recommendations. If you go to the cloud adoption framework documentation, there are some recommendations there, but I'll just recap it in a nutshell. What we suggest is you use subscriptions if you want to sort of organize your Azure resources for your departments. There are a couple of reasons why we suggest you do that. One is it obviously allows RBAC capabilities. It provides a cleaner differentiation between the different resources used within that subscription. I've also seen some organizations use it with resource groups. And tags is also being used. There are some limitations if you're using with tags. One is obviously you can apply RBAC. So if permissions and delineation of production, non-production, or which department is viewing the cost is important, tags would not be a recommended suggestion. The other advantage of using subscriptions is you can also avail of, if you have any dev test offers and you want to avail of those dev test discounts, then using that as a subscription allows you to provide get a little bit more flexibility in how you manage it across those departments. Where tags come in really important is if you have costs that span across departments or span across subscriptions or resource groups, then tags is a great way to do that, because you can apply a tag and then you can view your cost. So for example, if I'm running a cloud application and it spans multiple subscriptions, let's say, for example, I want to see my total dev and test costs, then tags would be a great way to do that, where you can actually apply the tags. And then in cost management, tags is a dimension that you can select. And if I've created a tag for it, I should be able to see my cost by tags. So in a nutshell, subscription resource groups are great to organize costs for things like your departments or your environments, because they give a cleaner data delineation, and tags would be something I would recommend to use for project costs and project applications that span subscriptions or resource groups.
Thank you. And kind of a follow-up to that. Currently, not all resources in Azure are able to be tagged. Is Microsoft working on this? So in the future, all resources will support tagging.
Absolutely. That is something that we are continuously monitoring on multiple fronts. One is ensuring that every service actually emits the tags and that is made available. So there is an ETA. If a service doesn't have it today, I believe 95, 99% of them have it today. However, there is going to be some limitation that is going to be there perpetually. So for example, there could be some tags that are not applicable at a resource level. They could be a subscription level tag. And for those, we are working on some features in the cost management area that we hope to have, hopefully in the early quarter of next year, calendar year. But that will enable, or that with those features, we are looking to try to allow you to get tagging capabilities on all your resources, so you can see your cost for every resource that has some consumption or charges.
Thank you.
We have 1 minute left, just by the way.
Okay, this is a really interesting question, and calling this out, I'll put this out to Rafi. Is there a plan for a built-in cost gateway, such as a way to require admin approval for a cost-inducing action? So it effectively sounds like, Rafi, you're...
Yeah, not in cost management, but I believe you should be able to do this with using Azure Policy. Azure Policy has a ton of policies that you can actually apply on what is allowed, not allowed. And I'm fairly certain that with Azure Policy, you should be able to apply. And the part that I'm not sure about, the reason I'm hesitating is I don't know whether policy can automatically detect whether there's going to be a charge or not. But it can, if you know, like say, for example, you can restrict the deployment of specific type of service or a VM or a SKU. So those kind of policies you can apply. So if you know that there is a specific VM set that you don't want people in your organization to deploy, you can definitely apply a policy to prohibit the deployment of that particular SKU. And with the last minute, I also want to just on the screen, we have a list of references that are useful. So these are great resources to go through to get more detailed about cost management, help answer any questions or stay up to date with any of the things that we are publishing out on a monthly basis.
And also, I'd just like to say if we missed any questions and you want to get a response back, please reach out to our Ask Cost Management email address right there on screen, and we will do our best to get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.